Jon, Anik, and Kenny Florian Podcast. Jon, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
I f***ing love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Boston X.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole. There are a couple of absolutely self-involved bullshit artists.
Here are your hosts, Jon, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
Headshot, bang.
That is us. Great to have you with us live on a Sunday. Hope you are enjoying your Memorial Day weekend, and perhaps if it is 9:19 a.m. Pacific for you in the United States of America, or just afternoon on the East Coast, this is hitting you at a pretty good time before you're potentially enjoying some friends and family. Kenneth Allen Florian, good to see you. What's going on?
What's happening, man? That's one of the things I miss most, I think, about the West Coast is like everything started early. You're done watching UFC early and sports and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, the sports fan in me has been checked since I moved from Las Vegas to South Florida because I can't really stay up past 10 p.m. and a lot of the games expire thereafter or start at 10:05 p.m. Eastern. But great to have everybody with us, and perhaps you enjoyed the UFC respite last night. Perhaps not. We have a big card coming up this weekend at the UFC Apex. We will get into all of that back end of the show. Ray Longo coming up in 10 minutes. It was a busy Saturday night for him, so I would imagine the voice will be gravelly. The coffee will be close by. Couple would you rathers for Raymond as well, and we will also talk to the new CFFC featherweight champion, Ryan Cafaro, coming up in 40 minutes. He was able to take the O from Longo's guy, Anthony DeLemme, so we're excited to talk to Ryan, who is a good friend of mine. It is Sunday. It is May 25th. It is 2025. This is the 552nd episode of the Anik Florian Podcast, presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Yeah, always sounds obnoxious when you say 552 episodes. Could be more, though. Could be more. Could be less. So we're going on a Sunday for myriad reasons, as they say. I don't like when people say a myriad of reasons. Myriad reasons actually works, you know. Ken Flo, your birthday's tomorrow.
Yes, that's right. I'm going to be 49 years old, dude. I mean, I'm almost 50. That's insane. That doesn't sound right, John. It doesn't sound right.
So my worst birthday was 40, right?
Okay.
You know, he's a man, he's 40, right? I was like, I'm fucking old, and, you know. So 49. So you were born May 26th, 1976.
Yeah.
Where were you born, Kenny?
Westwood, Massachusetts,
okay,
kid.
Yeah.
Westwood.
One of us was born at the Boston Lying-In Hospital in Boston, Massachusetts. That would be me. People want to say, oh, you're from the Metro West area. They could fuck right off. So, Ken, 49 years of age. What's going on the Memorial Day Monday for the birthday?
Gosh, you know, probably, you know, something simple at this point. It's like just another birthday. You know, we'll do some kind of special meal and, you know, some kind of cake. I don't know. And then, I don't know. We did a little something yesterday. We went out to the woods, went out to the mountains and hung out there for a little bit. That was fun.
Shoot any guns or no?
I did not shoot any guns yesterday.
Good.
I know. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So will you do anything special for your 50th birthday in 2026?
I imagine so. You know, that one's a little different.
You're probably like, no, but Clark will do something. Your wife will probably do something. So
yeah,
my identical twin brother, Boston, and I, his name's Jason, but Boston Anik is his social media handle. So we would be down on our knees, like begging anyone close to us to not throw us any sort of surprise or celebration or otherwise when we turn 50 in 2028. So we're not far behind you. But happy birthday, brother.
Thank
we
you,
love
buddy.
You. And, you know, the schedule, even though we say it revolves around Longo, the star of the show, you thrice fought for the UFC title.
Stop.
So you know,
Stop.
the fucking schedule revolves around your schedule. All right, lot to get into today. We have a ton of stuff to sort of empty out the MMA news desk. Headlines is brought to you by Cuervo. Now's a good time to enjoy the tequila that invented tequila. Is Jon Jones done with mixed martial arts competition? I think not, Ken Flo.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's sort of him just sort of playing with the masses a little bit. I do believe that he is going to fight Tom Aspinall. I have long said that he's not going to be in any rush to expedite this. I have thought it would be December Las Vegas all along. I have no inside knowledge, But I guess there is sort of a glimmer of negativity out there, Ken Flo, because Jon Jones has been, somewhat cryptic with his words over the last 72 hours or so.
He has. I think he's waiting for the right number. I think that's what it is. I think he's retired unless they give him the number that he wants. And I'm sure that the UFC is willing to do it. But then there's the other order of finding the right date. And I think Jon Jones wants more of a break. And I also think he kind of wants to force Tom Aspinall into one more fight prior to him fighting him, right? Because here's the thing. As good as Tom Aspinall is, I would argue we still don't know so much about him. Why? Because he just thrashes people within a few minutes, and we still don't know how good he is. So I think he wants him to have some kind of a tough fight for more intel, and I think he wants to have a little bit more wear on those bones of Tom Aspinall as well. But, that's clearly conjecture. That's me speculating, of course. But I think the date and the money is where they've kind of been butting heads, and I'm curious to see if it's going to happen. But I also think that if he doesn't get that number and the date that he wants, he's fine with saying goodbye.
Right. And there is just a lot of monetary gain out there for Jon Jones beyond fighting. It just is part of this equation, right? If you think about all the athletes that have realized success in the UFC, Ken Flo being one of them, who have been able to monetize themselves and create a career based off of mixed martial arts, Ken Flo largely in TV and other realms, right? You don't think Jon Jones can make money after fighting, right? Michael Bisping is an accomplished paid actor, right? Jon Jones has a very gifted vocal quality, right? So there is money to be gained, to be sure, right? So I do think he'll be fine as far as that is concerned. Kenny, as far as him having a number, I think that might be it. But as far as this petition of over 55,000 signatures to strip Jon Jones of the undisputed UFC heavyweight title, it matters not.
Yeah.
The money is what matters. Jon Jones doesn't need another championship title defense. He doesn't need a ruby on his fucking belt, right? The Tom Aspinall scalp would be very nice and would be the best possible capstone on the greatest mixed martial arts career in my mind of all time. It would be the ultimate capstone. But he doesn't need the win, and he certainly doesn't need a title defense. And to your point, having Tom Aspinall fight Alexander Volkov or someone of that ilk would make a lot of sense, I think, for Johnny Bones.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And, I've heard other people say that, Jon Jones needs to give Tom Aspinall this chance. And just like Jon Jones got a chance, first of all, he fought Mauricio Shogun Rua when Shogun was 29 years old. He was not given anything by Shogun. This was not a fight at the end of his career. Perhaps maybe it wasn't Shogun at his peak, right? Like when he was in 2005, but still he was 29 years old. This wasn't a washed up champion, late in his 30s, early 40s, where it was like, oh, Shogun owes Jon Jones, this young up and comer, a chance. Nobody owns anybody anything. Right. And that's the thing. And for Jon Jones, he does care about his legacy. How many former champions have we seen stick around the sport for too long? Did they owe those people? Are they proud that they owed, the UFC or the fans anything? Listen, I think the fans are going to dictate a lot of what happens with these fights. Obviously they're the lifeblood. They're the reason why there's so much money behind these fights. But for a professional athlete, they really don't own anybody anything.
Well put, and I think as far as Jon Jones's calendar is concerned, aside from the money, I just think that he is trying to enjoy life. I don't know in terms of New York versus Nevada taxes how that might play into it, but he just checked the Madison Square Garden box against Stipe Miocic last year, and he did so spectacularly. So I think it makes a lot of sense for Vegas. I'm having all the confidence in the world that the promotion is going to meet his number. I think he just wants to do it on his calendar, and I think maybe has sort of not called their bluff, but challenged them insofar as the date is concerned and saying, hey, if you want to strip me, and have Tommy fight somebody else, and, I'll fight him in 2026, first quarter.
Right. Now, I think that's probably what he wants.
So life isn't fair. That much we know, right? Yeah. Certainly you coming up on 49. Jesus, Kenny. What are you going to do about it? There's nothing you can do. I mean, you look good, like.
Oh, man, I'd love a new back. If anybody has a new back that they can lend me, that'd be nice. Yeah, the body would like to feel a little bit better. But, Yeah, man. I got to get myself back in shape, though, to a certain extent.
You look like
man.
you're getting
That's
in
my
shape.
goal. I'm trying. I'm getting there.
So, I'm not going to do any plastic surgeries. I mean, I need a fucking nose job. I'm not going to do any plastic surgeries, right? But I think for me, I'm on television a lot. I got to do something about these bags underneath my eyes. When I had little children, I used to just say to everybody, oh, they're the baby bags. Now it's just like, I don't know what to tell you, So, all right, we'll see what happens with Jon Bones Jones, but certainly looks like he's enjoying himself in Russia and Thailand and all over the place. And by the way, bro, at the 15 in the Mahomes Foundation golf tournament, right?
Okay.
They have I don't know if it's a silent auction. I guess it is, but you see the other bids written down. But yes, it's a silent auction, right? And I like to be participatory. So there were a pair of Jon Jones stitched boxing trunks. You might have seen this on my Instagram story. Perhaps not, right? You probably have better people to follow, Ken Flo, right? But they are stitched Jon Jones boxing shorts that he has seemingly never worn, but he signed them and they were framed up, right? So I put in a bid and I won the shorts, right? And I'm so excited that I won the shorts because now I can message Jon and be like, dude, where are these? Were they just created for this? Like, have you ever put them on? Like,
right.
Because, I don't know what they are. But anyway, in terms of life not being fair, Alexander Volkov, right, was on the wrong end of that wayward scorecard against Ciryl Gane. And I think maybe he would be the guy that Tom Aspinall would fight in this type of situation, right? I don't know what they would do. I mean, maybe it would be Gane, right?
Yeah.
But do you think that is something that is going to happen? I feel for Volkov, right? But I just, we're old, so life isn't fair.
Right. And, some people have kind of compared it to the Mike Chandler, Conor McGregor situation where you can't wait around for too long, where you're going to lose a couple years of your fighting career. And, I think that's true for Tom Aspinall, who is certainly in his prime right now. And, if he is that good, if he is that confident, let him fight Ciryl Gane, especially if he is frustrated about not being able to make money. And I do think he's good enough to beat someone like Ciryl Gane. However, I also think it's going to be an interesting fight to watch as Jon Jones, to see kind of how he deals with a guy who is kind of methodical in his approach and has a similar footwork and style in some ways to someone like Ciryl Gane. So I don't know. And I also think it's just an exciting fight for the fans. So for Tom, it sounds like he's very frustrated. It seems like he wants to get back in there, make some money. And I don't know, perhaps Jon Jones gets what he wants here.
Last thing I'll say, I expressed frustration on Tom's behalf on the show last week when I sort of, amidst the show, looked at the calendar and looked at how long ago his interim title defense was and largely couldn't believe it. But such is the fight game and such is the scenario when you were dealing with the greatest MMA athlete of all time in the eyes of many. All right, so Lerone Murphy, UFC featherweight title contender. And you can let me know when we have Longo. I was expectant that he might be a few tardy today. Lerone Murphy, who is undefeated and an outstanding featherweight prospect. I shouldn't call him a prospect. I mean, he's a title contender right now, but he's on the brink, right? He says it would be, quote, terrible if Yair Rodriguez gets a title shot instead of Movsar Evloev when Alexander Volkanovski next makes a featherweight title defense. Now, we have seen champions in the past, right, acknowledge the most deserving guy, and more often than not, they get that fight. Alexander Volkanovski laid out a red carpet for Movsar Evloev, expressed interest in taking his O. But you have Noche UFC in Guadalajara in September. You have the presence of the former interim champion Yair Rodriguez, who just beat a debuting Patricio Pitbull. And you have Yair's status as maybe the most dynamic guy in the game. He's the fastest striker I've ever seen. But this is not a straight meritocracy. And there was only one move for me to go to UFCstore.com and buy a Movsar Evloev t-shirt.
Right. So, yeah, I think that people forget it. It's so funny reading some of the comments, John. First of all, our social media will post a little clip of you and I talking for maybe 10 or 20 seconds. People are like, oh, that's the clip. That's the only thing they said about the situation. And what are they talking about? That fighter deserves a shot at this and that. Guys, it's more than just kind of what you've done, right? If it was just based on wins, yeah, I get a lot of your arguments, guys. But how many times have we seen a fight between, another guy that maybe didn't have as many wins as another person or whatever? Why? Because it is the fight business. It is the fight business. And sometimes they're going to make a decision on who gets a fight based on, their popularity and what's going to bring in the pay-per-view buys. It's just that simple. It happens all the time in fight sports. And, especially if it's relatively close, guess who they're going to pick? They're going to go with the guy with a bigger following. I'm sorry. Right. That's just the way it goes. Yeah.
And Kenny, correct me if I'm wrong, right? And I'll step out of my role as the president of Team Florian here. You had a big name that they wouldn't have minded if it vaulted into a featherweight championship setting against Jose Aldo, correct? Right?
Absolutely. That was a big reason for the drop down to 145, because I knew they didn't have a whole lot of big names in that division at the time because it was new. I knew that, hey, if I went to that division and I did well and I beat one of the top contenders, I can inject myself immediately into the conversation for a title shot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I know I'm mentally strong enough and fortified enough to stare death in the face and cut down 146 pounds to fight Diego Nunes, even if they're holding my brother Keith Florian back as he tries to go save his brother's life. So, yeah, I agree largely with Lerone Murphy, right? But I absolutely love Yair Rodriguez as fighter and as human being. And it seems as though if he accepted the Patricio Pitbull fight, that Yair Rodriguez had some sort of verbal guarantee that he was going to get a title fight.
Exactly. And don't confuse who deserves a fight with who's going to get a fight. These are two very different things that we will talk about. There's a lot of other people that can get into the conversation just based on their following, guys. So deserving is also open to interpretation, and they're not always the people who get the fight.
I do think that Yair Rodriguez can be more competitive for sure in a rematch with Alexander Volkanovski if you actually want to talk about the fight part of it. But Volk, in my mind, is coming off like a real signature performance, and he'll probably be about 2-1 as far as the betting line is concerned. Merab Dvalishvili started his UFC career 0-2, but he easily could have been 2-0, right? He won 10 straight fights before he was afforded the championship opportunity. But you could argue right now Merab Dvalishvili could be 14-0 in the UFC. Movsar Evloev is 9-0 in the UFC with 9 decision wins. And I just have to think, I don't know, rumored to be Aaron Pico. If he gets that win, he'll make himself undeniable. But my goodness, if you follow Movsar on X, his approach is the right one, albeit reluctantly that he's not getting the shot. All right, always getting the shot. Let's get to the one of the stars of the show, the Ray Longo Minute.
It's now time for the Ray Longo Minute.
I want you to punch a hole in his fucking chest. That's what I want.
The Ray Longo Minute. Starring Ray Longo. The Jon Anik and Kenny Florian Podcast.
Look at him! Look at the motherfucker! That's what I'm talking.
Good afternoon, Raymond.
Oh, man. Sorry, guys. I'm off mic. I'm back to the
phone.
You're
fine.
Well, good. Awesome.
Well, one thing about the phone is that it's always going to be crystal clear, even if the audio won't be as good. So is that hot coffee in the Led Zeppelin mug today, Ray?
That's a little matcha tea.
Yeah. New haircut too, Ray, right? Is that a new haircut?
Oh, yeah. New haircut.
Yeah.
New day. New week.
It looks so good when your hair's a little bit trimmed like that.
Thank you, John.
You got any Delemy tears in that mug or no?
I tell you what,
I'm just kidding, bro. Talk to me. Amazing night in a lot of respects. But tell me about the fight. I furiously was on UFC Fight Pass, and if you don't know, we are going to talk to the new CFFC featherweight champion, Ryan Cafaro, coming up here later in the program. But a lot of Anthony Delemy love, as you know, over the last several years on the Anik Florian podcast, and fought an absolute war. UFC Fight Pass, I was able to watch clips that Cody sent me, but I couldn't download the fight exclusively, so I haven't seen the fight in totality. But can we start there? How was the fight from your vantage point?
Yeah, no, Delemy, I think anytime he was hitting him, he was hurting him, but then Ryan was smart enough to go to the clinch and get him on the cage and, get the control time going. I thought it was going to go to a 5th round. I thought it was 2-2 going in. And that was it. Yeah, it was a smart fight by Cafaro. I'm not saying the most exciting, but he did what he had to do to win, so hats off to him.
So in terms of Delemy's career, what was the closest fight he had as an undefeated fighter up until this point last night?
I wouldn't know the name of the guy. Maybe he had one pretty close fight, but he was pretty dominant in all his fights.
Yeah.
And you could, again, if you go back and look, he buckled Ryan a couple of times. But again,
I saw that clip.
the kid had the presence of mind to do the right thing, and like again, he got himself back in the fight, and that's all that matters. That's the way the judges saw it. So it is what it is.
So how do you feel about your guy's ability now to sort of move forward from this? I mean, he seems like he's a UFC level guy, and eventually,
but no, it doesn't change anything for me. You know what I mean? I think he kind of had like an off night.
Yeah.
And it was still I think a very close fight. So I don't know. You know, sometimes those things work weird too. You know, maybe it helps him. You know, maybe it even helps him more. You know what I mean with a loss. And you know, Kenny, I think the old saying is too. Sometimes you carry that around. I'm undefeated. It's a lot of pressure. So he, you know, if you were going to lose a fight like that, no problem, because I think he bounces back from that. Like not even. You know, I'd love to see even a rematch in that fight. I think he makes the corrections and he wins that fight 1,000,000%.
Yeah, how is he taking the loss, Ray?
Very good.
Yeah,
very good. So he's growing as a person too, because the Lemmy could be like a hothead and he gets a little crazy when things don't go right. But he's going to be a father soon. So I saw a lot of growth in a lot of different areas last night that I got to say, as his friend, I'm happy for. And I think it'll be a no matter, in a couple of months. I think he, was that type of fight, where you just got held against the cage a little too long. And I think that was the difference in the fight.
Yeah. Anybody else you want to shout out or any result worth mentioning before we get to some of the UFC stack?
No. Hats off to Ryan Cafaro. He was always a nice guy.
Yeah.
I like his story too. He was always helping people. Now he's kind of, doing it for himself. So, I love those type of stories also. So hats off to him.
I appreciate you saying that. Selflessness has been definitely a defining trait of everything that he's done in the fight game, helping UFC fighters all the time. And all right, there's so many different UFC topics that we could get to with you. So I'm going to table the Jon Jones thing for a second because I think we kind of exhausted it, right? So Ilia Topuria is leaving Clement Club in advance of this title fight against Charles Oliveira. And he's moving from Alicante to Madrid. Nutritionist and physical trainer and jiu-jitsu black belts Manai Tabanaya and Matthias Ribeiro will be there with him. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on this, Ray, because one of the Clement brothers said, professionally it's painful, but in another way I feel liberated and good. I know everything's going to work out for him and for us as well. And there are big things happening with the team locally. I know you've been a part of sort of some high-profile transitions like this. What do you have for us on Topuria making this change? Because a lot of talking heads are concerned.
I mean, what I read, they made it seem like it was just a geographical decision, right? Weren't they like 6 hours apart or 7 hours apart? Is that correct? Or?
Yes, but I think that guys like Daniel Cormier and Chael Sonnen sort of suggest this close to the title fight, right? Like, I don't know if they're going to be in the corner, right? Like, you're still in Merab's corner,
right.
So it seems like, little by little, they've sort of been separating out of necessity because they've both gotten bigger, and now, it's going to be a new look corner for this title fight. I don't know if you share some of Cormier's thoughts that, I have DC's comments, to him it's a little bit odd, he's concerned,
Yeah, I think it makes for a good story. I'd have to know the details. What happened with us through the COVID thing, everybody was running like a chicken without their heads on, going in different directions. So I think I'm always going to blame like COVID just for even decision making. But everybody had to get the hell out of there. People were running like it was it was a plague. I think it's a little different, but I think we did a good job in keeping something together. But I'd have to know more on it. I mean, Ilia is definitely very squared.
Kenny,
Ilia is very squared away with his striking. So
I have
know.
more for you. If you want more,
go.
I have more. So here's the quote from the coach. Every time I have more and more trips. Last week I was in PFL, and a little bit I'm going to Madrid because we have someone fighting. The week after that, Cage Warriors. They have almost 30 professional MMA fighters, and he needs something else. I have to be a little selfish because I've invested so much time in the gym, and all my life is here. So it was something that over time arose, and we treated it like adults and friends. But then DC's comments, and Kenny, perhaps you can chime in on this. If I'm Ilia, I'm still just using those guys, even if I have to do my training camp with someone else. I know that those guys guys know me so well that if they can get with me for a week, 2 weeks, we're still so aligned, especially if there's no bad blood, which there is not. He feels like, this team got him from being a young man to 16-0 at a UFC champion and beating the 2 greatest featherweights of all time, and feels like maybe that shouldn't be a trend that is bucked, Ken Flo.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's different. For some people, it's like, a lot of people don't like change. For some people, they do like change. And I think for Ilia Topuria, it seems like to me that they've been separating a little bit more and more. When he started getting his own kind of training regimen and kind of, I guess he kind of built his own training facility outside of his house. To me, it seemed like a sign that he was kind of moving away a little bit more and kind of doing his own thing. And who knows what the restrictions are from the other coaches as well, and what other things they have going on as far as their other fighters and their travels and their business. So, I don't see it as a big deal. I think at the end of the day, from a fighter's perspective, they're going to do what's best for them. And if he felt like leaving the coaches was going to hurt him in an upcoming fight, then I don't think Ilia Topuria would have made that decision. So, for Daniel, that might be different. For Ilia, I don't think that's really that big of a deal. But
no, but I'm going to agree with Cormier too. That coach can come in with 1 or 2 weeks, and I think, I'm not saying make a big difference, but he can hold to what they were doing. I mean, it's it's funny though, Kenny. Everybody makes this decision after they're already on the top for a while. You know what I mean? Like, would he have made that decision as he was coming up when he really needed the guy? That's where I get a little salty with.
Sure.
Things. Like, hey, if you're gonna do it at the beginning, man. You know what I mean? Because I go back to what Teddy Atlas said to me when I did that interview with him. He said Gus D'Amato always told him what a guy does in the end is what he always wanted to do in the beginning. So I think, like what Kenny said, he was building that place. It's probably what he always wanted to do. But, I think we had a different situation, man. We all lived together. Like, we were all 2 minutes from each other. I think it's a totally different vibe. I'm saying, again, without the COVID thing, I say nothing. There would have been no changes. And I would have loved to have seen what the gym could have did, because I do miss those guys, too. It's not like it was never really a business to me. I was almost like Ryan Cafaro. I was selfless. I believe I did everything. I went everywhere. And it's funny, like when I started losing the weight and working out, that's the first time I thought about myself. I said, you know what? Like 2 to 5 every day I'm working out. I'm not making any exceptions. I'm not training nobody. I don't care what's going on. And I kind of held to that. So I know where he's coming from. That's why I love his story, because it is funny. I always put everybody before myself with the training, always, until I think my A1C came back at 6, and I better start doing something. You know what I mean? So for me, it was more of I just want to be around.
Right.
But
Ray, I know.
Sorry, Kenny, go ahead.
I was going to ask you. I know you were pretty confident that Topuria was going to get the knockout. But before we had this information, does it change for you at all? And do you think Oliveira has a chance to pull off an upset against Topuria?
No, I don't think it's gonna. He looks like he's squared away to me. So that's why I say I think that guy could come in a week, 2 weeks. I think you just get that vibe right in the corner, and I think that guy's on autopilot. You know what I mean? So I don't think I'm not changing my. There's certain cases where, when there's a lot of drama involved, Kenny, then there's other areas, right? Who knows? You don't want to be stressed out one way or the other in either direction. So this one looks like it's a mutual kind of thing where everybody's got their own thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. So I don't think, definitely not this fight. I think he'll be squared away with that. I don't know.
Not that anyone really solicits my opinion, but largely I agree with Kenny. I feel like Topuria is such a mental giant that I just don't worry about this at all. Like, his ability to align himself with elite MMA minds and coaches and training partners, I don't worry about that at all. And not for nothing, his brother is an absolute stud and probably more selfless than any name that's been mentioned today. So, all right. I got to get to this, right? And I don't know how headline worthy it is. Anyone who's ingested this podcast over the last 10 years knows that we are not in the clickbait business, right? Aaron Blanchfield is fighting Macy Barber in the main event this weekend. And Joe Rogan says that us broadcasters are professional MMA fans. So just pretend I'm a straight MMA fan for a second as I present to you these comments, Kenny and Ray, from Aaron Blanchfield about Zhang Weili potentially fighting Valentina Shevchenko and moving up to flyweight. Here's the quote from Aaron Blanchfield to MMA Fighting on Zhang Weili at flyweight. I think Weili would be very similar to Rose. I think she could win some fights at flyweight because she is very good, but I don't see her being a champ. I don't really see her even being top 5 at 125 pounds. So, Kenny, like, what?
Well, it's like, so I definitely disagree with at least the top 5 part. Zhang Weili can absolutely be a top 5 in that division. But, it's like if I'm in that division, I might say some similar things like that too. Because
to get the fight or
to
what?
get the
okay,
fight.
all right,
Right.
okay.
You know what I
you
mean?
want the fight, okay.
Exactly. I don't think she really believes that. I think that either it's influencing her bias, her bias is influencing her statement tremendously, or, that's kind of her saying, no, she should not be in here. I need this shot. I'm the person who should get that next shot. So, yeah, listen, is Zhang Weili a little small for that division? Yeah, of course, sure. But just skill-wise, power-wise, speed-wise, yeah, she can compete with the best in the world and potentially give Shevchenko fits. So, but I think it's more Blanchfield. She's like, I want that spot. I don't want someone coming from a different division, complicating things for me. Right?
Yeah, listen, I've been around Erin a little bit. She's really a quiet girl. I'm not even sure. I've heard more than hello. That's about it. So if she said it, I do think she means it.
I saw it on video. But she is, though, she does have a little bit more of a mean streak and an attitude than you're letting on, I think, based upon my fighter meetings. Like, she's not afraid. She certainly doesn't care what John Anik or Zhang Weili thinks,
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, when you're my experience was whenever she was at the gym, she was just, I'm saying she didn't say anything.
Her nickname's Cold-Blooded, Cody reminds us.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. Here's my thing, Ray, okay? So a fight's a fight at the end of the day. And I'm not suggesting that Zhang Weili and Macy Chasson, who's a giant, are competing in the streets this weekend, okay? But what would Zhang Weili's ranking be if she was a 135-pound fighter and, let's say, didn't cut any weight, right? Never mind 125 fucking pounds, right? Like, Zhang Weili can do whatever she wants as I'm concerned and maybe beat any woman up to 155 pounds, paging Larissa Pacheco. So I'm not trying to overreact. And, yes, we got a big fight this weekend, Ketlin Vieira, Macy Chasson, that we'll get into. And, of course, Aaron Blanchfield's fighting Macy Barber in the main event. But am I overreacting, Ray?
No, I don't think you're overreacting.
Okay, all right.
No, definitely not. I'm with you. I think Weili could. I don't know about Pacheco, but up until that point, I think I'm with you. I am. I think that girl's a little dynamo. And Kenny said it. She's got the power. She's got the speed. Her stature is short, but I think she finds a way to win. I thought what she did in that last fight against Suarez.
Tatiana Suarez, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thought that was going to be a big problem for her with the wrestling, and she passed that test.
Yeah, I was there.
So
right?
I don't know who's going to out wrestle her. The other kid out wrestled everybody.
So huge test for Aaron Blanchfield, Kenny, this weekend, and I know you've broken down that fight over the last 24 hours or so. But let's put some respect on the name Zhang Weili. I wonder if Aaron Blanchfield's ever seen Zhang Weili fight live, Daniel Cormier says she's the greatest athlete in the world right now in any sport. And I thought he was crazy when he said it. And now I'm closer to his opinion than my own. So
it's crazy to see her, how far she's come as a grappler. Shows that level of athletic talent. And China has been producing some of the best athletes in the world for many, many decades now. Their population alone and the way that they train their athletes, I mean, it's just next level stuff. But to see her now out wrestling Suarez was just unbelievable. So I might be certainly in the UFC, one of the best athletes in the UFC. I think he's right about that. But it's amazing what she's done.
Got a couple more minutes here with Ray Longo, and we appreciate your time on a Sunday. What's the rest of your day hold?
I'm running to the gym after this. I got a couple of people to train, and then I'm just going to chill out for the rest of the weekend.
This is going to be the hardest 300 seconds of the rest of your day.
Oh, no,
come
minutes.
on. No. I have an MMA question. I have an MMA question and then some would you rathers. And then we might, time permitting, get into what Kenflo's plans are for UFC 316. Are you going to be in Newark June 7th or no? Yeah, Marab's there. Silly.
Oh,
okay.
Man.
All right. So let's see. I have so many different topics here. I'm not going to go. Would you rather talk about Jon Jones or Belal Muhammad?
Ooh. Let's scratch the would you rathers and get into both of them.
Okay. All right. So what do you think about Jon Jones? Kenny and I don't think he's done, right? Perhaps it's sort of a posturing tactic, whether it's the calendar that is his motivation or money or having Tom Aspinall fight once more. Can I ask you what you think is going on and what you think might be the end result when it comes to Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall in the heavyweight division?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm almost starting to think he's doing it because he can do it. You know, it's like, why does a dog lick its balls? Because it can. I mean, it seems like it's a power thing. Like he's just, we're gonna do this on my time, my timeline, and you can't do anything about it. That's what it seems like to me. I mean, why is the guy doing that show over in Russia? Like, well, what's going? Well,
wasn't there a prolonged delay before the Stipe fight? I know he had a torn pec, but he certainly didn't expedite the process and rush back to competition. You know, at this stage of his career, you know, wrapping his head around a 4 to 6 month training camp every 2.5 to 3 years seems to be what he's about.
Well, but that sucks for the fans and that sucks for the UFC, and that's why I say I think he's the type of guy. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I don't give a fuck what you think. I think that's who he is, and that's what he's doing right now. And he's holding the power, and that's how he's deciding to use it. You know, the UFC can't do anything. They should strip him of the title. I don't think it's fair to Tom Aspinall. This poor guy's been he'll be waiting for 15 years before he sees the title. Is that right?
Well, wouldn't you, if you're John, see some sort of competitive advantage in actually being stripped, right? He doesn't need to enter with black and gold fucking trunks, right?
I don't think Jones. I don't think he gives a shit.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's like you're saying, everybody's like, oh, you strip Jon Jones, right? And I was calling for a strip or a vacation just so we can maybe move things along. But the more I think about it, and Ken Flo was very intelligent to bring this up off the top of the show, right? Like, Jon Jones, strip me. My paycheck's going to be the same, and let's see how Tom handles Cyril Gane or Alexander Volkov in the interim, and, who knows what happens.
100%. 100%. I don't think if you think stripping him, he gives a shit. He couldn't care less. That's my opinion anyway.
I also think he's in a situation where if the UFC strips him of the title, it hurts the UFC more than it hurts him.
Well,
right?
Kenny, I the only reason I'm going to agree with you is because if you were wrong, they would have did it already. So, everybody's, this is what happens when this is a great example of I'm going to do what's best for me. Yeah, if everybody does what's best for them, nothing will fucking get done. Somebody's got to, be the caretaker and get in there because that's it. I'll do what's best for me. I'll do what's best for me. And you know what's going to happen? Nothing. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think that's where, being selfish like that is total bullshit. But, good luck dealing with that guy. I mean, I don't know. I just think the fans suffer. That's really what happens.
So one of our viewers wrote in at jonanik.com, and they said, because Ray really doesn't like the Would You Rather segment, here's my suggestion as to what you could do, right? So why do you have such negative energy when it comes to Would You Rather when such a huge segment of our listenership really seems to enjoy it, as do Kenny and I?
Well, listen. Wait, hold on. If that's what the viewers want, man, bring it on. If that's what the viewers want, I'm here. I'm a people pleaser, man. I'm not out here to. I'm not doing a Jon Jones. I'm not going to fucking hold out for a year before you do another Would You Rather.
There you go.
I mean, can your friends at the Chicken Pound throw us a bone, no pun intended, and sponsor Would You Rather, right? There's a lot of things that can happen,
Oh, let's do it. Yeah, maybe we got to work on a couple of
right?
things.
Yeah, I mean, all right.
Oh, we're going to work. That's what we're going to work on.
All right.
Somebody that wants to sponsor Would You Rather.
Yeah.
What about Belal? What's going on with him quickly?
So remember the show, his podcast with my twin brother, which lives on the Anik Florian Podcast YouTube channel. They did a show last week. I joined them for about a quarter of an hour. Belal's first comment since the fight, he looks pretty good, but he says in large part that he did deviate from the game plan, and largely a guy who has been credited with a high fight IQ seemingly abandoned part of it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to say I think it's the Illuminati got to him.
Okay, all right.
I don't know. Listen, I just feel bad for the guy. Remember the name? Was that a fake clip with DC calling him Leon Rocky Edwards?
Regrettably, no.
Oh my
I know. It's real. I know.
I feel bad.
Regretfully, no.
I think I feel bad for that guy. And I'm not saying this. You're gonna think I'm joking or I'm a hater or whatever. But Steve Lee just had a baby. He tells me when he needs that baby to go to sleep, he puts on a Belal Muhammad.
Oh my God!
Steve Lee said that.
He said that 100%. He said the kid goes right out.
Steve,
so that's actually like fake news, and Steve Lee will be lucky if he gets another name mentioned in the history of the Anakin Florian podcast.
And Steve,
but the kid is watching. He does put on Sugar Ray Robinson fights, and the kid.
So the kid slept right through Belal slamming Leon Edwards on his fucking head, and then Leon. Yeah, well.
Yeah. But he's looking at Sugar Ray Robinson.
Yeah.
He looks at Sugar Ray. He likes Sugar Ray Robinson. What do you want me to tell you? Let's do a Would You Rather. Come on.
Yeah. Hey. No, you got me back for the fucking. You got me back for the dilemma tears that you're fucking.
Oh yeah, there
right
you
now,
go.
Okay?
That was nice, Kenny. Right off the bat, he came out with dilemma.
He did.
Yeah.
What a comeback by Ray Longo.
Yeah.
Ray.
How do you feel about poor Belal?
How do I? Well, I'm glad that he has an undisputed UFC welterweight championship belt at home, and I'm glad that he's married to the game. And we'll see what Shavkat Rakhmonov has for him in October. Okay, Belal versus Shavkat in October. There's your breaking news. All right, would you rather have a parrot that insults everyone it meets, or a monkey that steals everyone's hats?
Oh, I want the parrot that just insults everybody he meets.
Yeah, I bet you'd like that, right? Walks in the front door. Yeah,
love it.
All right. Would you rather have ham hands or armpits that dispense lotion? Wow.
And you're can we go through? And you're saying this is what the people want. This is what the people want. Would I rather have ham hands or armpits that dispense what?
Lotion.
Why is that so funny? Oh my God.
Do you have to go?
I gotta go. I got things to do.
All
I got people waiting.
All right, buddy. Love you. Thank you.
Listen.
See you, Ray.
This was so much fun on a Sunday morning.
I'm so glad.
Oh, you beautiful boys. You take it easy, guys. I'll
See you,
talk
buddy.
to you.
See you, Ray. Much love. The Ray Longo Minute. Every week on the Anakin Florian podcast, maybe one of the better Ray Longo Minutes out there.
So good. Oh, gosh.
Wow. Next week, we will save, would you rather eat an undercooked meal or a burnt meal? All right, but now with us on the guest line, right? Not a bad transition from the Dilemma Tears line. We are joined by the new CFFC featherweight champion of the world with belt over his shoulder, Korean Thunder, Ryan Cafaro. My man, congratulations. A lifetime of work. Cheers to fucking you, bro. I have sort of followed your story, and even Ray Longo said, we all have so much respect for the selflessness that has accompanied you to this moment in your career, but it's about you today, my man. So less than 18 hours removed from becoming the champion. Our heartfelt congratulations, good sir.
Thank you so much, man. It's, just I'm honestly, part of me feels I'm at a loss for words, and just like what this belt actually means to me, and to actually accomplish, this milestone of mine. And like, if you look at the history of the CFFC featherweight belt, the people that have held it, Jared Gordon, Bill Algeo, Scott Heckman, Pat Sabatini, Levon Makashvili, like I know all of them because I've followed this belt for so long. And, I have always saw those guys and thought, I could never hang with those guys. And then, it just sort of, I feel like a real life Cinderella man in the sense of, my career kind of stalled in the middle when I had, my moment coming up, and, I kind of bit off more than I could chew too early and was never focusing on myself fully. And then, I had a bit of a layoff and injuries and things like that. I tore my ACL after the pandemic, and then, bounced back from that. And then just the momentum carried me through all the way to this fast opportunity to have a quick turnaround against Anthony Delemy for the title. And I just thought that it was kind of like a repeat of a fight I had earlier in my career, where I thought that Delemy fighting me was biting off more than he could chew in terms of my experience. And, obviously my record is nothing close to spotless, but I have, he was 7-0 in MMA total. I was 7-2 in CFFC, let alone this was my 20th professional bout.
Right.
And if you don't count my 10 amateur MMA bouts and my amateur and pro Muay Thai fights, I have over 33 combat sports bouts. So I just thought that the experience would pay off, and I was able to capitalize in a lot of positions to frustrate Delemy. And it was, it's one of my most proud moments as a competitor, because I was able to do things and most importantly, adhere to a game plan and do everything that I trained in camp. And it's just, look at this thing. It's incredible.
It's amazing.
Man, congratulations. That organization, one of the top regional promotions anywhere. So big win. What were your expectations for that fight? Did the fight kind of go as planned?
100%. It actually, so I envisioned that fight so many times. And, it's one of those things where you kind of see people say, I visualize this and visualize that. And I just knew that, man, Delemy's he looks like he has canned hams for hands. The guy's got ham hands.
Yeah, right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, he was throwing heat at me the entire fight, but I thought that based statistically, he would fade in power after the first round. So my goal was to make the fight as ugly as humanly possible in the first round, and at least until he slowed down his power let up. But he came into the fight at 144.5 pounds or something. So he was lean, super lean, and definitely in shape. So even though I was taxing his body and doing the things that I wanted to do, he didn't really fade as much as I expected him to fade. So I had to just keep grinding him for 4 rounds straight. And it was just a brutal fight. But I thought that if I got past the first round, I was in such good shape that I could wear on him using my, veteran savvy and things like head positioning on the cage and better control. And I was able to fully utilize that and kind of take advantage of Delemy's inexperience, in my opinion. And
newly crowned CFFC featherweight champion Ryan Kafaro with us here live on the Anik Florian podcast. All right, so we're friends, right? So I hope I'm on the right side of this, but who is pronouncing your surname correctly, me or the ring announcer at CFFC?
It's Kafaro. You have it right.
Let's go. So yeah, they dropped a Kafaro, and I'm like, oh shit.
They also said I was from Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, and I was like, all right, sure, that whatever.
So it's hard for me to sort of go journalism on you because I really am so happy for you, right? And you're on the UFC doorstep now more than ever before. I'm certainly hopeful that this is a bypass of Dana White's Contender Series or any of that noise. And I've never gone to Sean Shelby. This might actually be the one. But in terms of the people that you have heard from since this win, and I know not that many hours have expired, but all these athletes that you have helped that have reached a high level, chief among them, I guess, Frankie Edgar, but Claudia Gadelia and Caitlin Chukagian-Sermonara and Paul Felder and everybody that you have helped. This is like a celebration and a fucking coronation. So of all the people that you've heard from and maybe some people that aren't close to you, is there anyone that it's been particularly special to hear from in the hours that have elapsed since the win?
Let's see.
I saw Claudia reached out, which sort of touched my heart.
Claudia's great.
The old reliables,
Eddie Alvarez was streaming it from his house. Felder was streaming it from his house. Paul hates that I don't really drink a lot, so he was like, "Go drink beer right now," and I was, he was, he's like the bad influence, go drink more beer to celebrate, and I drink half a beer. I'm like, Paul, my tummy hurts. So, but and it's just the people that really helped me, and I had my first coach ever, Brian Jackson, who used to train with BJ Penn back in the day. He lives in Florida, and he flew down for this fight specifically. He had a choice to go to UFC Miami and or spend the money on that to go to my fight. And he was like, I'd rather go finish what we started, because he started training me from like my first amateur fight back in like 2009.
Man.
So it's just been such a full circle thing. And it's such a wild journey to accomplish this goal after being an amateur in 2009, going pro in 2013, making my CFFC debut in 2015, and then a decade later winning the title against an undefeated fighter from the illustrious Sarah Longo camp.
Right.
And I got to tell you, I was so motivated for this fight. And then when Ray Longo was saying stuff about, oh, don't put your logo on your shorts because it's going to get all bloody, I was like, all right, motherfucker, we'll see who's bleeding after this fucking fight. And that when I tell you Ray Longo probably shot himself in the foot, he lit such a fire under my ass. I was like grumbling all week, like, fucking Ray Longo, what the fuck does he know about? So, and
Incredible.
And I posted on my story, I said, like, we'll see who gets cut in this fight, and we'll see who's fucking bleeding. And right in the first round, I was like, yeah, who's fucking bleeding? That's what I fucking thought. So, pardon my French, but
you got fired up.
Hey,
I love it.
yeah.
It's open season, man. You're the champion.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is a high-profile regional title. We got another minute here with Ryan Kim Kafaro. If you want to follow this man, it's at Ryan Kafaro MMA. The nickname's Korean Thunder. Hopefully this blows you up in Korea, because the UFC usually goes there every 18 months or so. I think that's a perfect place for your UFC debut. What are your Korean roots exactly?
My mom is full Korean.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah. So my mom and my dad met at Juilliard School of Music, and that's where they, met, and then here I am. So
do you have a manager? That's a really cool story.
Yes. Cale Brusso is my manager.
Okay.
And I've been working with him. He's the only guy that's ever reached out to me. Every other manager would kind of, brush me off, but Cale, I shout out to Cale Brusso.
Yeah.
But
Cale, all right, Cale. Let's get this man a UFC contract, right? I mean, as you spin this forward, obviously you look like you're relatively unscathed. And I know you and I have talked about short notice opportunities, and you're chiseled and ready to step in if need be. But what are your thoughts on the backside of this win as to what might be next and when?
I would hope that it would be, a short notice UFC opportunity. I think I'm probably not what they're looking for Contender Series. They have these very young, up and coming guns on the Contender Series. And, despite looking like one, I'm a little older than the average one. So I'll tell you what, man, my dream fight is just put me in there with Nate the Train Landwehr. Because I will ignore. I told my coaches, I was like, hey, if they put me against Nate Landwehr, you guys just sit back and cover your ears, because I'm not going to listen to a word you say, and I'm going to go out there and just swing to get my $50K bonus. I was like, I might take an L. I don't care. For that fight in particular, I will just swing until the crowd, makes me go deaf from screaming. That's what I would love. That's be
amazing.
A debut to remember. To go after like a psychopath like Nate Landwehr. That would be wild.
Tell the coaches, here's your fight kit. Now just touch your top lip to your bottom lip, and I'll take
Nate will be saying, look at this bicep. I'll be pointing at my legs. Look at this quadricep. You know what I mean?
Ryan Kafaro, the CFFC featherweight champion. Congratulations, man. Enjoy the fruits of all your labor. And on behalf of the MMA community, this amazing story. Hopefully we get to tell it on a UFC telecast in the future, brother. Enjoy your Sunday. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, guys.
Pleasure.
Congrats, man.
There he is, the CFFC featherweight champion, Ryan Kafaro. And this only furthers the Anik Longo rivalry. And anyone who watches this show knows that anytime Ray makes any comment, he only addresses Kenny. You can even check the fucking record today. So it's war, right? Like, this isn't fun and games anymore, right? Team Anik, right? Anik and Florian Podcast, right, had talked about sponsoring Ryan Kafaro and putting our logo on his shorts in the past. It didn't materialize, right? So Anik and Florian Podcast kind of needed a Ryan Kafaro win over Longo's guy, Anthony DeLemme. And, that's a big, big time regional win for Team Anik last night. All right. Especially Longo fucking going at Belal with Steve Lee. Like, what is going on today? I feel like this is honestly a family divided today. And we're live. I'm serious.
You're killing me, dude.
Yeah, JohnAnik.com is going to be on fucking Ryan Kafaro's shorts into UFC. No, I'm just kidding. All right. We got to spin it forward because we got a fight night this weekend, and I imagine Big Gun Brian Petrie's on hold. Pronunciation of the Week is brought to you by Total Wireless, the official wireless provider of UFC. Get unlimited data that will not slow you down. All right, this man represents the Kingdom of Belgium. If you are watching on the DraftKings Network or YouTube channel, you see it fonted below. He is set to face Markel Medeiros in a lightweight prelim at the UFC Apex this weekend. The name is spelled, for you folks on the audio side, Bolaji. Surname is Oki. Nickname, the Zulu Warrior. Ken Flo, who are we talking about?
Oh, my goodness. Let's see. I need that spelling again. Oh, jeez. All right. I have. Where is it?
Can you see it in front of you on the lower third, or do you?
Oh my goodness.
You don't
there
have
it is.
the
Yeah.
scroll?
I know. I see it. Yeah. Bolaji. Bolaji Oki.
All right.
Bolaji
Let's hear what the Zulu Warrior has to say.
Bolaji, the Zulu Warrior, Oki.
One more time.
Bolaji, the Zulu Warrior, Oki.
I put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Yeah, it's a tough one,
yeah.
right? That first name is the reason it's the pronunciation of the week.
Bolaji.
Bolaji.
Like gangster.
Bolaji Oki. Given name, Bolaji Jubalani N. Oki, if you're wondering. Tapology.com.
Yeah.
All right, NBA Finals almost here. And every second counts with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. You're not just watching history, you're betting on it, and now is your shot to get in on all the action. Player propositions, game lines, live bets. I have been absolutely hammering the live bets, not necessarily hitting them, but playing them. It's playoff betting at its finest, and if you are new to DraftKings, you can bet just $5, and if your bet hits, your $5 bet hits, you'll cash in with $300 in bonus bets. We have upped the ante. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code AFPOD. That's code AFPOD for new customers to get $300 in bonus bets. If your bet wins, when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. All right. We go 3 wide and welcome in Big Gun Brian Petrie.
What's up, boys?
Good to see you, buddy. Happy Memorial Day weekend. How we doing?
Happy Memorial Day weekend to you. I gotta tell you what, man. I caught the Kafara interview. Sign me up on that kid. I love the cut of his jib. I wasn't aware of the little rivalry between you and Longo because Delemmy's a stud. I watched him fight last night.
Good.
I was not aware of the connection with you, John. But yeah, I love that interview with him. Full of personality, and yeah, let's get that boy to the UFC.
I'm gonna take Longo out of the favorites on my phone. I'm not even kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to be funny. Brian, were you here for the Ray Longo minute?
I missed the Ray Longo minute. I did. I missed. I was a little behind. Sorry.
So
I have to go watch it.
We talked about Delemmy and Cafaro last week, as you know, and that was the foundation for Longo's comments that literally fueled Ryan Cafaro to victory.
That's so wild.
Yeah,
it is fucking wild, right?
It is. It is.
But Steve Lee says that, like, he puts on Belal film to put his kid to bed on my fucking airwaves, Brian. Do you have anything to say about that, Brian?
I respect Ray Longo, but what is my guy doing? Like, what is he doing?
Throwing Steve Lee under the bus? I love Steve Lee, the manager of Longo's MMA, who's now my former friend, Steve Lee. What's going on today?
Ex-friend now. We got an ex-friend.
I'm not trying to be funny either.
Oh, man.
So we have a clip to play here at the start of the main event challenge. A lot of good content on the show today. I'm fired up. So Andreas Gustafsson, Brian, and Kenny. Notice how I address both of you and not just Kenny the way Ray Longo does perpetually on the Ray Longo Minute. Unfucking real. So there's a clip from Andreas Gustafsson. This is on him not being related to Alexander Gustafsson. He faces Trevin Giles this weekend. Go ahead, Cody.
Here we were wondering how many times you're asked if you're related to Alexander Gustafsson.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of this. It's so fucking lame. It's a common surname in Sweden. A last name. I think 50% of the Swedes' last name is Gustafsson. So yeah, I don't know what to say about it, but I don't take it the wrong way. Gustafsson is one of the greatest fighters from Sweden in the UFC. So yeah, I don't mind if people think I'm related to him.
So he starts off by saying he's tired of it and it's fucking lame.
Yeah.
And then by the end, he says he doesn't mind it. So
Correct. We backtracked a little bit there.
Yeah, he thought about it.
I mean, I don't even think I'm stoned. I'm having a lot of fun today. All right. So there is going to be some shuffling on the main card, I believe, this weekend. So we have a couple of preliminary selections for you guys, and then we have 4 main card picks. It is UFC Fight Night, Blanchfield versus Barber, live from the UFC Apex, coming up this weekend after the bye week for the UFC. We will start with a prelim at bantamweight that, quite frankly, could be the co-main event. Number 5, Macy Chasson, -112. Number 3, Ketlin Vieira is +108. It's a big fight, Brian, 135 pounds. I guess it's less big if Kayla Harrison wins on June 7th and Amanda Nunes comes back, because then even for Macy or Ketlin, it could be a delay. But if you're Macy Chasson, right, you got to consider this a title eliminator. She's got a lot of momentum out of Fortis MMA. What do you think about the bantamweights here, BP?
Yeah, so I got to do my tape research. I'm like, oh, surely these females have fought before. I've seen them fight before, right? No, I swore they fought before. They have been matched up twice. Some pullouts have happened, but I could have sworn they have fought before. Either way, fresh matchup. I've been big on Macy since coming off the Ultimate Fighter. I felt like she had a lot of room to grow, and she has. She's 33 years old, time to put together, and she is putting together. She's really good with mixing her takedowns with her strikings, and she's becoming quite a finisher as well, which I love. Ketlin Vieira, the exact opposite. She's not a finisher. She's a girl that goes out there and fights at her own pace. She never really lands above 100 strikes. The only 100 strikes fight she's landed was a Miesha Tate fight, which was very close. She looked very good in that fight, but fights at her own pace. She will clinch you up. She will put you on the wall. She will go for some takedowns. She'll slow you down. She slows everyone down. She got a lot of decision wins on her record, a lot of split decision wins on her record. The number looks nice on that, but I'm going to go the over. The over is going to be money, which is going to be high, but I'm going to go the over. I'm going to go Macy as well, because I feel like it's going to be a very close fight. I just think Macy is a little more skilled, a little more powerful, a little more well-rounded. And one day, Ketlin Vieira is going to lose one of these split decisions, and that's going to be Saturday. I'm going to be on the opposite side of it. I'm going to go Macy.
Nicely done, Bri. Ken Flo, Ketlin Vieira is 30 days Chasson's senior. They were both born in 1991. Vieira, of course, that highly competitive unanimous decision loss to Kayla Harrison. That was UFC 307 last October. 8 UFC wins for both of these women. Macy, has more momentum, Kenny. Mm-hmm. She beat Big Norm on a big card back in 2022. She's got 5 UFC finishes to Ketlin Vieira's 1 to sort of back up BP there. I'm not sure why this is a prelim, Ken Flo. We will need a prediction on it.
Yeah, I think Macy is extremely talented. I think looking at how they move, as far as, their athletic gifts, I think Chasson, is that where we're going? Are we going with Chasson or Chasson?
Chasson. I said it both ways. We've featured it on the pronunciation of the word.
Confusing the hell out of me.
It's a bad Chasson.
Okay, Chasson. Okay, thank you. So Chasson, I think, is a more athletically gifted fighter. Both we've seen inconsistency from both, and both have fought a lot of high-level fighters. I think we have Chasson, who has beaten Mayra Bueno Silva, who has fought for the belt, has a win over Big Norm, as you mentioned, Pani Kiansad. And as far as, Ketlin Vieira, I think she comes from a really good school. I think she's tough to beat in that she is a little bit more conservative in her approach. But I think Chasson has more firepower. It's a real even fight, but I like Macy and her momentum right now. So I'm with Brian here.
All right, featured prelim in the men's flyweight division. Alan Nascimento comes back as a -162 betting favorite against Jafel Filho, who is +136. Filho trains under Andre Pedernera's Nova União. He's won 2 in a row by submission after dropping a short-notice UFC debut to Mohamed Makayev. That was UFC 286, early 2023. And now Bri going for 3 straight wins against his fellow Brazilian out of Sao Paulo, Nascimento. Who do you love, Bri?
I love this fight. We haven't seen guys in a while. We haven't seen Nascimento in almost 2 years, over That's 2 years, I believe. In Filho, we haven't seen him over a year. And they're both jiu-jitsu guys. They're both very talented on the ground. I'm really interested to see Kenny break this down, because that's his world. The jiu-jitsu, that's where that guy gets his knowledge from. However, the way I view it, I think Nascimento is heavy on top. I think he's very, very good on top. He stuffed a lot of Jake Hadley's submissions on bottom. He's looked really good. He ragdolled Carlos Hernandez his last time out when we saw him. He's very heavy, very strong on top. I think his striking is coming a long way. But Filho, this guy, remember, he popped fucking Mokayev's knee. Mokaev's still feeling that knee pop. I guarantee you that. He did get finished in that fight, and he does have a lot of submission losses on his record. There's 3 of them. So he seems like a guy who's going to go for whatever he's going to go for. Go for broke, lose position, maybe give up a submission, but he's going to try to go for it. And it usually works out for him because he's got a lot of submission wins on his record as well. So if you're looking at me, I'm looking at this line as I think the line should be a lot closer. So that tells me everything I should go with the underdog. But I'm going to go Nascimento. I just think the wrestling and the striking is going to be a little better. You know, whenever you see 2 grapplers, typically they might strike it out a little bit. I like Nascimento just being a little bit more rugged in this fight and getting it done. Maybe even by sub late, but give me Nascimento.
Good adjective there, rugged. Nascimento, Kenny, has been out for 2.5 years. He's had 4 bout cancellations in that span, including a previously scheduled matchup with this man, Filho, that was to go down last August. Nascimento pulled out due to illness. We got 24 combined submission wins between these 2 flyweights. Who do you think prevails, Ken?
Yeah, it's good to have Nascimento back, and it's hard to know where he's at technically. You know, is he a better fighter than what we've seen him before? You know, and Filho, I think, is really, really talented, very explosive, a lot like Nascimento. It's hard to tell just based on what I've seen so far who is necessarily the better grappler. Filho has been in some tough spots and also knows how to get out of some tough spots and attack with submissions. Nascimento as well. Yeah, I agree. I think Nascimento's probably the better wrestler for sure. You know, as far as striking, they're both pretty even from what I've seen. So this is a hard one for me. I'm going to lean the way of Filho, but we shall see, man. I've been kind of going back and forth on that one.
Yeah, tough fight.
Cody, can you log on to my Instagram and restrict Steve Lee and Ray Longo from
He's still on it.
Bloodbath. I love it.
All right, let's get to the main card for UFC Fight Night. Blanchfield versus Zhang Wei Li. Is that not happening this weekend? No? Okay. Blanchfield versus Barber. Middleweight main card opener, at least as the fight card now stands. Shiner, Texas native Zachary Reese, minus 285, taking on Dushko Todorovic, who comes back plus 230, Bry. Reese could use a win, right? Tough knockout loss last time out against Azamat Bakoyev. That was in January at UFC 311. Here draws the Serbian Todorovic.
Yeah, I like this fight for Reese to get back because Dusko's coming off 2 knockout losses, a lot of knockout losses in his career. His 3 wins in the UFC have not aged well. I believe neither of those fighters are in the UFC anymore. And yeah, I mean, both guys can be a little chinny. Both guys can get rocked out there, but I think Zach Reese has a little bit of a rabbit out of his hat. I think he's really good off his back as well. He can throw up a triangle. He has some good submissions. Cardio kind of got questioned a little bit, but, you know, I like Zach Reese, who I call medium country. You know, big country's taken. This guy's medium country to me, right? Savage is a cool nickname, but medium country, Zach Reese gets it done. I think the under's happening. I think it's going to be within the cards. Give me medium country, baby.
So, dude, I love it, as you can tell. And I'm sober as a judge, but he's so tall that, like, medium, you know, like.
But see, like, I never understood Roy Nelson. He was big Roy Nelson. He's from Nevada. But he's got a big belly, but he's from fucking Vegas. Yeah. That's not country. This dude's from Texas. He's a middleweight, which is kind of the medium weight. So medium country.
Dude, it's brilliant. If he wasn't so tall,
he's tall. He's a big boy. Yeah.
You know, but medium country, trying to get past Todorovic here. Now, I've told the story before, but Dushko Todorovic in our first fighter meeting, Kenny, he was 9-0 when he signed. Huge expectations. Told us he was hoping to be for his country in MMA what Novak Djokovic was for his country in tennis. And
big stuff.
3-5 in the UFC obviously isn't getting it done. I'm not sure Djokovic ever lost 5 tennis matches in his fucking life. What do you think about this one, Zachary Reese, I should say, and Dushko Todorovic? Ken Flo.
Yeah, Todorovic, I think, had a lot of potential. I was excited to see him and see how he would progress, but it hasn't quite gone the way I expected, and probably not the way he expected either. But he is well-rounded, but he does get caught kind of trading a little bit and maybe doesn't take the best approach from a strategic standpoint. Zachary Reese, I think he's really fluid. He's super loose as a fighter. Seems like when he's on his game, man, really seems to be enjoying himself and is very precise with his striking and everything else he does in there. I also think his reach, his height is going to be an issue for Todorovic. I like Zach Reese here big time.
Cody suggests mid-country as a nickname. Brian, what do you think of that?
Mid?
I like it. I mean, I just shot from the hip with medium country because the Kentucky waterfall sometimes he reps. I know he buzzes every once in a while.
Yeah.
But big country's taken, or would be big country.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cody's firing off really good nicknames. He's very good at that.
Speaking of good nicknames, fellas, the Hanyak, Dustin Jacoby. Minus 185 here in the light heavyweight division, taking on Bruno Lopez, who is plus 154. So Jacoby turned 37 last month. A lot of miles on the athletic tank, right? Quarterback in college. He's an elite golfer, not talking about the miles there per se, right? An outstanding striker, glory kickboxer. This is his first start of 2025, Brian. It comes against the 14-1 Bruno Lopez.
Yeah, I looked at the age. I don't want to be an ageist, right? I know there's always that thing in MMA of the guy's 9 years this, whatever. I don't want to be an ageist, but Jacoby has looked really good because he's really taken a leadership role out there with Mark Montoya. This guy's like the captain of the team out there. Everyone trains with him. Everyone loves him out there in Colorado, and it's really showed in the cage as well. He'll be losing fights and he'll come back to win the fight. Like the Vitor Petrino fight was a very competitive fight. Instead of going, fuck, I'm down 2 rounds or whatever, I come back, I'm going to knock this dude out. It's great. The confidence is there because the team's there. Now he's got Bruno Lopez, who I don't know how this guy got 14-1, and I don't want to be disrespectful. I think he's an okay guy. I haven't really dug deep into his record, but he's a little sloppy on the feet for me. I think his takedowns are sloppy, but he seems to be heavy on top, has a lot of arm triangle choke finishes in his career, and that's how he's going to want to get it done against Jacoby. I don't think he can stand with him. I think he takes Dustin down. I think it could be a wrap there, but Dustin's very hard to take down. He's very hard to hold down as well. And him knowing that that's going to be Lopez's really only avenue to win here. I like Jacoby as well. I'm surprised he's this big of a favorite. I was hoping to get him a little bit lower here with the age, with everyone betting against old people. But I like Jacoby fairly confidently as well. I'm not going to know if I'm going to place a bet on him in our contest because I'm down so much. But something in real life that I'll lay some real money on. But yeah, give me Jacoby.
Bri, you know how old Ken Flo turns tomorrow?
Oh, man.
33 years young, I believe.
Nailed it, dude.
Nailed
Good job.
it. Nice, yeah.
Nice.
So my twin brother and I were talking about all these May birthdays. It is so obnoxious, right? Cody, May 15th. Longo, May 20th. Bruce Buffer, May 21st, right? There was another one yesterday. Then you got Ken Flo, May 26th. Frank Mir, May 25th. I can't fucking wait for June.
George St. Pierre was 19th, I think.
My whole family's June. My wife kicks it off with June 2nd. My daughter, my mother was. Yeah. Siblings, nephews, everything was just June.
Yeah. All right, so Ken Flo will need a prediction on Dustin Jacoby minus 185, Bruno Lopez plus 154.
So I was I had a problem with this fight because, when I went back and watched some of Lopez's fights, I think that he's a better striker than people let on. I actually think he's got an excellent jab where he sets everything up off of. I think he's got some decent power as well. I went back so far as like 6 years ago. I think it was 6 years ago when he fought Gregory Rodriguez and actually got rocked, came back to win by knockout pretty impressively. So, yeah, but I do agree with Brian when it comes to the takedown game. I think that's where he may struggle and maybe exert a little bit too much energy against Dustin Jacoby, who is an excellent athlete. I also think that Jacoby probably has a little bit more firepower. Lopez can knock you out. Let me tell you. And this is where I was kind of struggling with the pick on this one. I think Jacoby probably hits a little bit harder. He throws with a little bit more pace, but Lopez can knock you out. And sometimes Jacoby, can get caught. So this was a tricky one for me. I do like Jacoby though here as well. But I wasn't as confident when I made that pick.
All right, that brings us to the co-main event at lightweight. Ken Flo, we'll go right back to you on this one. It is the fight I am most curious to hear you guys break down between the 7th-ranked contender Mateusz Gamrot out of Poland. He's minus 175, taking on the Slovakian Ludovic Klein, who is plus 145, a personal favorite of Boston Anik, Ludovic Klein. Some movement, Kenny, line-wise, toward Klein over the last 24 hours. It's a huge opportunity for him, not only trying to crack the rankings, but potentially move up to as high as number 7 in the world. He has won 4 in a row, but he's unbeaten in his last 7 fights. Some high-profile wins, Ignacio Bahamondes, Mason Jones. Yep. What do you make of Ludovic Klein as he takes on one of this division's best?
Yeah, Ludovic Klein has a lot of good wins. Maybe hasn't faced the same level of fighters that Mateusz Gamrot has, but He's definitely showing that potential and showing that he could be a guy that could fight for the belt in the future. He's good everywhere. He's dangerous everywhere. The dude is absolutely jacked. And I think, how good his conditioning is going to play a factor in this fight. Why? Because Gamrot, I think, is at his best when he's pushing the pace. The problem is Gamrot sometimes doesn't know how to control that pace, and we see him get tired later on in the fights, and he starts to get a little sloppy with his takedowns. If he gets sloppy in this fight with his takedowns or gets tired, that's where I see Ludovic Klein really taking over. And as good as Gamrot is as a grappler, I don't know if he can sustain that over the course of every single round, especially given the fact that Klein is coming in here very motivated. He's got a ton of momentum, on a crazy win streak right now, and just looking very, very good. So I like Ludovic Klein here. I was a big fan of Gamrot. His fight against Harukian was one of the best fights I've seen, in a long time. At the time when I saw it, I thought it was an awesome fight. But I think we've seen a little bit of a decline from Gamrot. I don't know if he's developed his striking as much as I would like. Perhaps he proved me wrong here. Still think he has some power, but as far as the sophistication of his striking, I think it's lacking a little bit, and I think he'll need that here against Klein. So I like Klein here, and kind of like him a lot.
Yeah, that's nicely laid out, right? Hunger, I think, is certainly still there for Gamrot, but I think this is a good test as to if his skills are getting better or maybe idling. What do you make of the co-main event? Brian Petrie, go ahead.
Yeah, listen, most people who are down what I'm down and Kenny picking the way he's picking, I should flip my pick. I should ride Kenny's coattails and try, you know what I mean? Jason Anik loves a little bit Klein. But no, baby, shoot or shoot. Shoot or shoot, baby. I love Gamrot in this spot. I really do. This is the fight that I love the most. I really broke this down. And Ludovic Klein, even though he's got some good wins, he's got some young wins. A lot of the other wins aren't great. Like Baja Mendez was a young win. Mason Jones was young. He got kicked out of UFC. Now he's back. Gamrot's got some real wins. The Dan Hooker fight could have went either way. That was his last loss. The Benny Dariush fight, he landed a lot of takedowns. He landed 11 takedowns on RDA. And even though Ludovic Klein is really mixing in, you came in, he head kicked Shane Young. Everyone's like, this dude's a killer striker, right? Then he really devolved his grappling game. His takedown game is great. 91% takedown defense. But Gamrot keeps a pace on you, man. It's almost similar to like how Belal fights a little bit. Like he'll take you down just so you can get up, so you can wear you down. The fact that this is 3 rounds, I love, because I think Gamrot's going to come out like a bat out of hell and not have to really try to conserve for 5 rounds. You got to also remember, this dude took Sarukian down 6 times. Like, he can wrestle. He's got chops. It's really going to come down to the striking. If Gamrot can really let his hands go, we've seen some improvement in that area, but you really got to put hands in Klein's face if you're going to want to take this dude down. He's big. He's got a strong base. His takedown defense is very good. He's athletic. And the other big issue I have with Klein is he's only landed, his most significant strikes ever landed in a fight is 60. We need to up those numbers. Those are rookie numbers. We need to bump those up, right? And I just don't know with a pace like Gamrot's going to put on him, we're going to get that. So I like Gamrot by decision. I don't see a finish happening. And anybody on my side, which I don't know what many there are because of my numbers, let's wait a little bit because I think his number is going to come down. We got him at minus 175 right now. I think we get him close to minus 145, maybe minus 135 come fight night, which would be a sweet cash for us.
All right, that brings us to the women's flyweight main event. Number 4 ranked, Zhang Wei Li Hader, Erin Blanchfield. No, I'm just kidding, Erin. Erin Blanchfield, minus 238. Taking on number 5, Macy Barber, who's plus 195. So Barber had foot surgery. This will be her first appearance in more than a year, dating to her win over Caitlin Sermonar. That was UFC 299, early 2024. Blanchfield, I thought, responded well, Kenny, after her first UFC loss to Manon Fior. It was a 5-round unanimous decision main event win over Rose Namajunas last November. It wasn't the perfect fight, but it was a win, and now she puts her number 4 ranking on the line against the also top 5 Macy Barber. Ken Flo, lead us off on the main event, if you would.
Very interesting fight. That the more I thought of it, thought about it, the more kind of confused I would get a little bit, just because I think that Macy Barber brings an athleticism and a toughness into this division that is kind of rare. I think that she's extremely strong. She's going to be tough to take down. And I'm curious to see the development of Blanchfield's wrestling takedowns. I think it was exposed certainly in the Fioro fight or the Fior fight. And I think that if she gets this fight to the ground, then yes, she absolutely wins this fight, perhaps against anyone in the division. I do think she's that good. I think that she learned a lot in that fight against Fior as well. We found out about her toughness. I don't think at any point did she give up on herself. I think just skill-wise, she ran out of skill a little bit in the takedown department, but showed that she is tough. She does have a good chin. She's going to keep moving forward. And I think she's going to need that here against Maycee Barber, who just thrives when she's in these dogfights, man. So I'm curious to see how it goes down. I think Maycee might be a little bit more developed as a striker as well. And she tends to get stronger as the fight goes on. Blanchfield, I don't think is short on the conditioning department at all either. So I think it's going to be a barn burner, man. I think this is going to be back and forth. I'm leaning the way of Blanchfield, though. I do think she's overall the more skilled fighter, especially when it comes to the ground. I think that's where she can win this fight. And I think she can win by submission. So I like Blanchfield here. Not sure she gets the finish just because Maycee is so dang tough. But if Maycee does make a mistake, which she sometimes does early on, that's where Blanchfield can really take advantage of the fight.
I love the big size.
Yeah.
It's not an easy main event for me
No.
to handicap. Barber just turned 27 last Sunday. She's 9-2 in the UFC. Withdrew from a main event against Rose Namajunas last July. Huge spot for both of these flyweights, BP. What do you make of the main event?
Yeah, I apologize. My phone rang right before you kicked it to Kenny. It was Jason Anik calling me because I picked against Ludwig Klein. I apologize. Tom, just checking. Listen, I love this main event. And I think Barber had bunion surgery, if I'm not correct, with her feet. I got some nasty bunions I need to get done. Every day my dogs were barking. So I might need to look into that. Anyway.
My mom had double bunion surgery.
So I could probably use double. My right one's a little worse, though. But back to the fighting. Listen, everyone knows I got a little crush on Erin Blanchfield. She's my sweetie. She's my sweet.
Yeah.
But listen, her last two fights, I thought her takedown game got exposed. Definitely against Manon Fior. And even against Rose a little bit. She landed 2, but it wasn't enough, right? But her hands were very active. She's obviously learning with her coaches and being a young fighter going, listen, takedowns are out the window. We still got to throw hands. We still got to strike. We got to move forward. And she's very good at that. But Maycee Barber's a bad bitch. No mistake about it. She's mean in there. She don't give a fuck about getting hit. She likes to get bloody. She's a dog. Problem is off her back is a little bit of an issue. And if Blanchfield can get it there, even with maybe her takedowns being average at this point, or at least they've seen to be average, they can obviously be improving. Even if she gets Barber down on top, Blanchfield is such a problem on top. Those strikes, the heaviness, the submissions on top of her problem. Barber cannot get taken down. However, I do think she's getting taken now. With that being said, I'm picking Blanchfield, but this line I think is crazy wide. I think plus 195 on Maycee Barber is definitely worth a shot for anybody trying to cash on almost a 2-1.
Yep.
But I'm going to go Blanchfield. I think she just has a little more tools in the bag, and if she does land a takedown, which I do think is going to happen, it's going to be a problem for Barber.
All right, nice work, man. I got a crush on Zhang Weili, by the way.
John Whaley, yeah, that's not a bad crush.
All right. Let us get to place your bets if we could, fellas.
Let's do it.
Brought to you by JohnAnik.com, where you can get 15% off your merchandise order to support the Anik and Florian podcast or the One More Sleep movement with promo code One More Sleep. Also, go to KennyFlorian.com right now for all your jiu-jitsu essentials if you're trying to become the best in the world. All right. $1,000. It's a fight night, Bri. $1,000, one band. Who do you love?
Well, listen, at this point, I'm kind of pitching. I can't paint the board and win a couple hundred here, a couple hundred there. I got to go big. And my big bet is 1K, the whole man, full beans on Mateusz Gamrot. Let's go. Fuck it.
Whoa!
Let's go.
Hey-o. Nice.
Called him Mentews.
Well, how do you say his first name?
Not Mentews.
Hold on. Let me do it again.
Mateusz.
God, yeah.
Ken Flo, you got to stack $1,000. I mean, the checkered flag's already been waved in terms of you beating this guy head to head.
Nope.
No, I'm just kidding, Brian. I'm just kidding.
We ain't
Go ahead,
done
Ken
yet.
Flo. What do you have?
Well, it's interesting because we're kind of we have opposing bets here. All right, I'm gonna go 250 on Reese.
Okay.
Nice.
Give me a 500 on Ludovic Klein. 500. And then we're gonna go another 250 on Blanchfield.
Noise.
So,
And
yeah.
Noise.
On Erin Blanchfield. All right. Brian Petrie can be followed at Brian Petrie MMA. MMA Takes podcast is worth taking in as well. Anything else, Brian, before we let you fly?
Yes, I'm wearing an Evan Longoria D-backs jersey that the man himself sent me. He's getting his number retired June 7th, but the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, long overdue. The guy is a first-class human being. I love him to death. I want to shout him out. And next week when we do the pick'ems, I'll be in this great state of North Carolina where Kenny is residing.
Hey.
So hopefully I'll get some of that Kenny Florian aura so I can pick the pay-per-view, and I'll come back. It's a comeback, baby. I love it.
Let's go.
I hope you guys can connect when you're in North Carolina. Way to reveal
Ken
Flo's location. I like that. It doesn't always have to be me. Thanks, Bri. Much love,
See you,
buddy.
boys.
See you, man.
Brian Petrie with us every week, our chief handicapper here on the Anik Florian podcast. Now, couple housekeeping items. We've been teasing Ken Flo's plans for UFC 316. We will reveal that Monday, June 2nd, live on the Anik Florian podcast when we do our UFC 316 preview. Also, Anik Florian Rewind. We are going to go back and look at a lot of fights involving Kayla Harrison, Juliana Pena, Sean O'Malley, and Merab Dvalishvili. All of that is exclusive on UFC Fight Pass, but sort of a fun, comedic way to watch film. I mean, we take it seriously, don't get us wrong, but it gives us a chance to sort of call those fights in real time and add sort of a comedic component to it. So that is exclusive to UFC Fight Pass, and I know many of you are already subscribers. That's going to do it. We are back Monday, June 2nd. Thanks to Ray Longo. Thank you to our executive producer, Cody Merrill. Thanks to Brian Petrie, Jason Anik putting it all together. And yeah, I mean, there were times during this podcast where I'm really thinking about the future of my friendship with Ray Longo. And even the Minutemen, I think, are probably on my side after this one. For Ken Flo, I'm Jon Anik. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the fights. Happy Memorial Day weekend. And we'll talk to you when the calendar turns to June. Until then, yo later.
I love this shit.